Robert Plank Show, episode 157. Become a cool business, provide a superior customer experience, and compete in the internet age with Dr. D. Anthony Miles. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, where we talk about building and growing a business and making more money. We're here with Dr. D. Anthony Miles. He's a PhD, an entrepreneur, and founder and CEO of Miles Development Industries Corporation, a consulting practice and venture capital acquisition firm. Now, Dr. D. Anthony Miles is an award-winning professor, a researcher, a legal expert who provides expert testimony. He's a radio talk show host and executive producer of Game on Business Talk radio show. Now, he's nationally known and has a new book out. He's a best-selling author of Risk Factors and Business Models, Understanding the Five Forces of Entrepreneurial Risk. I'm super excited to talk about that. So how are things today, Dr. D?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you for having me today, Robert. I really appreciate it.
Cool. I'm glad you're here. So can we talk about how you're different, just to start us off? Because I mean, sure, there's lots of PhDs and lots of people who say here's what you should do in business, but what makes you stand out as opposed to everyone else?
I think what makes me stand out from a lot of academics is I have over 20 years of industry experience to back up my academic work. I'm active in I would say I'm active in the business world. I'm always doing things. I'm always doing partnerships. I'm working on different ventures, and I would say that I have more of a duality to my skills and experiences because of what I do outside of the academic world as well as what I do in the academic world. And I'm also a statistician, so I'm always working on statistical things and looking at different things. And that's what gives me an edge over, say, someone who's just a professor.
Okay, yeah, either someone who's overeducated or has the experience but not the education, not the way to express it and make it easy for others.
Absolutely. And I think nowadays colleges and universities are looking for people with industry experience as well as academic because you probably went to college like I did, and you most likely taken a class from a person who's never had a real job or only worked as a TA, and then they're trying to tell you about business strategy or they're trying to tell you about industry things. And
Oh yeah.
sometimes, I think business students need a little bit more from their professors. They need someone who's actually been out in the jungle and who's actually had to, learn from the school of hard knocks as well as the school of education. So those are both critical.
And that's cool. And yeah, like as for me in college, I was a computer science major, and that's a field where in the real world things
Hmm.
change drastically with computers, with programming
Hmm.
languages and Facebook, and computers get faster and all this. And when you're dealing with
Uh-huh.
a professor who's kind of in his ivory tower, the past, still kind of teaching the same thing he taught 30
Hmm.
years ago, I mean,
Hmm.
really doesn't cut it, as opposed to someone who had the same duality as you. Like, those are my favorite kind of teachers because they would know what to say, but then they would kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent, or use like a
Hmm.
real example or a case study. And I thought, okay, great, this is really reinforcing the long term, the evergreen academic stuff, but also the little, like, the nooks and crannies, being in the trenches, being in the jungle, as you put it.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the critical factors is why I won an award, won an award as an adjunct professor. And the reason that I was strategic in how I taught my students is I could always relate something from my experience. I worked in retail. I used to be a loan officer. I actually used to be a collector. You can't be a good collector, and you can't be a good loan officer unless you're a good collector. And I was out there in the jungle. I repoed a car. We have to talk on another show about that. Oh
So
yeah.
so it sounds like you've done a little bit of everything.
I would say I'm a little seasoned, and what gave me an advantage when I taught my students when I used to be in the classroom is I would say that stuff, the five forces, it may sound good as a theoretical model, but in actual business practice, you really don't do business that way, and you really need professors like that. You really do. Um, in what, because I brought realism to my classroom teaching, that gave me an edge. And it was so bad, students were trying to find out what I was teaching before the semester started. They want to know what classes I was teaching, what time. And when students see that you have a passion about what you're teaching and you bring a knowledge there. And again, if you go back to the academic, he has a knowledge gap. He's a academic, but he's not a practitioner. And I would say both schools of thought are needed. You need the practitioner side. You also need the academic side. One without the other is one-dimensional, but you want to have both of those. So, absolutely.
Okay, so you have both of those, and so you mentioned this thing called the five forces. What is that exactly?
Well, there's a common business theory, and every business student, anyone who has a BBA or MBA knows this. There's the Michael Porter model of the five forces of the industry. Okay, and that's what's commonly being taught in most MBA programs and business schools. It's a basic framework of how you look at the industry. And if you want me to go through that, I could tell you really quick.
Yeah, real quick's good.
Threat of substitutes, threat of new people coming into the marketplace, the threat of the customer, power of the customer in the industry, power of suppliers. I believe it was something like that. And basically, what I would tell my students was that model came out in the 80s when I was a student. Okay? Well, you have to understand something. That model came out before the internet, before globalization. So the model is, I wouldn't say it's strictly outdated, but it needs to be updated because the industry is never that firmly or that neatly aligned. Well, like here's a new emerging thing in industry right now. Have you heard of a term called showcasing,
No,
Robert?
no, I haven't.
All right. And marketing, that's an emerging term, showcasing. What that means is, and I know I've done this and everybody else have done this. You ever go into a store and you whip out your smartphone and you go to a store, you see what they're charging for a particular item. Let's say a bookstore. You go to, let's say, a common retailer, okay? And you go in there, you see what the book costs. You whip out your smartphone, you go to the Amazon.com app. And you go price that book to see what the basic pricing of the book is. And then you may also find that the book you may find it cheaper used. It may be, you'll look at the condition of it, say just like new or like new, and it may be a fourth of the cost that's in the retailer, what they're selling the book for. So now you have new smart customers. The smart customer is not like the customer that your parents were. Now customers are smarter. Customers have more information at their access. So your smartphone is like a mini computer. So anytime you go into a retail establishment, like a bookstore, and you price the item in which you're interested in, you can price shop and price compare. And then you say, why don't I just buy it on Amazon right now? I was going to spend $30 for the book. I can get the book for $10. I've seen people do that. Well, when Porter built his model, Michael Porter, the Harvard professor, that was unheard of when he built the five forces of the industry. Okay? So those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Customers are showcasing now because now, remember, that model was built before smartphones, built before the internet. So not only are customers smarter, now customers have power. So a customer doesn't have to rely on you to tell them what the price is. They can price shop you. That could be for cars. That could be for any other items. That could be for appliances. Now we're living in the age of the smart customers. Customers are empowered, or consumers rather than empowered, and they don't have to accept your pricing. So not only are you competing with your main competitors, you're competing with people that are selling items on Amazon.com. That model does not have that in the five forces. You with me?
Yeah, yeah, and so just to kind of make sure that we're on the same page here. So there's this thing. So there's this one example out of. So there's the five forces which are from the 80s and things. But then now there's all these new changes in technology and things like that. And so the example that you used is, for example, one of the new forces, I guess, is showcasing where someone can take their smartphone to a bookstore, find a book they
Hmm.
want, scan it, order on Amazon for half the price, and get it shipped home to them in a day or two. And so things have
Hmm.
changed, but is there uh, are there new rules, or are there a new set of five factors, or is there some kind of response that us as business owners can now move in a new direction as the rest of everything else has changed?
Well, yeah, you have new frameworks and new models, and I don't want to get all academic on you. I'll just say this to answer your question. Competition is maybe four tier now, when it used to be three tier. Not only are you competing locally, or regionally, or by state or whatever. Now you're competing globally, and global also means the internet. So you're competing against people all over the world, and people not necessarily compete on price. That used to be the old thing. Well, I'll match their price. Well, it's not about price now. And I know if you Warren Buffett had said this: price is what you pay, value is what you get. So the same people that want value aren't the same people that are concerned about price. So we have a totally whole new ball game. And I'll give you a great example of this. All righty, I'll use Walmart as an example. What if you went and bought a laptop from Walmart? Okay, Walmart is considered a low price retailer, correct?
Right.
Okay. The people that buy laptops from Walmart are concerned about price. Now, what do you get when you buy a laptop from Walmart? You get no technical support. You get no help in terms of selecting item that you're interested in buying, okay? Now, let's flip that around. That's a person that shops on price. Now, the person that shops on value will go to a retailer who specializes in computers, and they want value for their money. They don't care about the price. So the guy that goes to, say, let me give you an example, Best Buy or a place like that, you get more technical support from Best Buy when you buy a laptop than you would, say, Walmart. So people will say, well, I'll spend extra money because I'm getting value. I get technical support. I get a 1-800 number. I can go back to the store, and if the computer doesn't work, they'll do a chargeback, and I can just go get another one off the shelf. Can't do that with Walmart. You probably could, but I'm just showing you the differences between the two. Most people shop on value and most people shop on price, but you never see people shop on value and price. That's why some people go to Walmart and some people go to Best Buy. That makes sense to you, Robert?
Yeah. So is what you're saying that, okay? So some people shop based on value, some people shop based on price, and so is what you're
Uh-huh.
saying that the people who are shopping based on price, I mean,
Hmm.
there's no keeping most of them, like in general, because of these new technologies, because of the price wars and things like that. We're just going to lose
Absolutely.
we're going to lose a big chunk of those people, and to make up for that, then we give the people who are looking for value more of what they want.
Absolutely. Well, let's say you go someone, and that's where I guess the Porter's theory comes in with switching costs. All righty. Say this. Let's say cell phones in particular. Okay. Why do people buy Apple's products? Apple's products are good. I have to give that to them. Okay. But you have something called uh, compulsion loyalty, which means you make people buy your products so they don't switch, and they don't care about the price or the value. They're going to be loyal. It's almost like blind loyalty. A lot of people, it would take, if you have all your platforms, all your devices set up with Apple, you got the Apple laptop or you got the Apple iPhone, all their other devices. Well, what if you want a regular PC, you don't want a Mac? Well, that's going to cost you money to switch. Those are called switching costs. So for you to go switch from an Apple laptop or whatever, all your things on there, all your items and all of your files on there, for you to go switch to a regular PC that uses a Microsoft platform, you're going to have a lot of switching costs. Okay? Now that's one of the things that Porter does talk about is switching costs. People, if it's going to cost you more money to switch products, then people are going to say, well, I can't afford that switching cost, so I'm gonna just stay with Apple, and that's what I've been using. I'm gonna just stay with them. So switching costs can be a factor. So as a person that's doing business out in the business world or having customers, you want to make sure that your customers are loyal to you in a way that maybe it's not about price, maybe it's about value. You call them every month. I don't know. You have someone in your staff, like think of a car lot when you buy a new car. That salesman that sold you that car, he tries to keep up with you at least once a month or once every 6 months. Ask how you're doing because he knows 5 years from now you're going to be looking for another car, or if you have children, you may have to buy your daughter a car who's getting ready to go off to college. So the salesman try to keep in contact with you. So it's about the relationship. And you're not a good salesman or a good business person if you sell somebody something once. If you can sell them something more than once, you're an excellent businessman or excellent business person, rather. So just because you sell somebody something once, that is not the end of the relationship. It's what you do before the sale and what you do after the sale. That's why they call it relationship. Okay? So that's what you want to do if you're a business owner. You want to build a relationship. Yeah, your prices might be higher, but what do you give them for their money? You give them value. Something breaks down, they break it to your shop, you fix it, give it back to them. People don't forget that. That's what makes people stay with their particular retailer or their particular person they do business with, because you provide a sense of security. When they buy something from you, they don't have to worry about it. It's like part of your brand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes tons of sense, and it makes me think of a few different experiences I've had with different
Mm-hmm.
establishments who did that very well. And I mean, one example that comes to mind is when I bought a car a few years ago. The dealership offered something like free oil change. I think it might have been forever even free oil change.
Uh-huh.
So you
Mm-hmm.
take the car in, and well, as you're waiting for your car to get done, you walk around the lot. You might want to pay for a car wash and things like that. But I remember uh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of pretty. I don't know what the word is even, but it made the gears in my brain to start turning as I was realizing that they had this one little shtick of, well, you can bring your car in as much as you want. Every however many miles to get your oil change, and even things like like
Mm-hmm.
my dentist is really good at the follow up, at like the email follow up and stuff like that. I go to a dentist. Well, it costs the
Uh-huh.
same, and it's more or less the same service as any dentist in town. But this dentist is pretty
Mm-hmm.
good about letting me know when appointments are coming up, things like that. But what really impressed me in the recently this past week is I recently had a birthday, and my dentist sent an email, and I mean, I'm sure it was on an automatic sequence, but still, it was cool that my dentist somehow somewhere figured out my birthday. I don't even remember when they discovered my birthday, but they put
Uh-huh.
in some kind of a system, some kind of a database, so that on my birthday that would send out an email saying happy birthday. And I there might have been some other businesses that might have sent me some kind of a message like that, but if there were, it was only one or two. So just the way that you described that with things like just have some kind of afterwards
Mm-hmm.
support, and then, like you said, even before the sale, have just those little touches in there to build up that momentum, so at least people will know who you are. And I guess that, so would you say that is that kind of like the attack plan, more or less, against like the big retailers, right? And I mean, a real retailer could even be Amazon, but I guess the advantage to like an Amazon or a Walmart is that they're competing on price, but they don't have the, I don't know what you'd call it. They don't have the time to give that extra care.
Support.
Yeah, yeah,
Customer support. There you go.
yeah,
Right. Customer
they
support.
can't support all of those customers because they're all doing it on volume. So their weakness is they can't support those customers. So then now the plan of attack is to play your own game and support that smaller pool of customers that a Walmart or an Amazon wouldn't be able to support. Is that right?
That's an excellent point, Robert. Excellent point. Because you also have to remember this. And because of customers being empowered with smartphones, I know I heard Bill Parcells say this. I heard someone else say this. The coach used to be with the Jets. He said, customers don't marry products, they date them. Okay? What does that mean? That means that if you don't give the customer the proper support, they're going to jump ship. And it may be involve switching costs, and it may not involve switching costs. But the guy who can maintain a higher customer support level is the guy who wins. Now, you bring another excellent point. We talked about Amazon. Well, yeah, Amazon is a huge retailer. So if I was competing against Amazon, I would say, okay, what would make people come to me as opposed to them? And you raised an excellent point. I would say my customer support is stronger. My customer called my 1-800 number. I get somebody on the phone. If you called Amazon, and I've seen this, you may get some guy in India who doesn't know nothing about your product, but he's just doing caller support. Okay? So this the things like that makes people want to go do business with you because you have a strong customer support mechanism. And it's like I go back to this all the time. Customers don't marry products, they date them. When you are no longer, and I don't want to get too technical on marketing and all that, but when you don't put the customer first, everything else goes to hell. Okay? So yeah, they'll buy from Amazon, but Amazon might be second choice. What if they go into your establishment or your store and look for it first, and they say, well, you don't have what I'm looking for? Stop them before they leave out of the store. You go, hey, I can order to have it FedEx here tomorrow. How much, let's do business. I want to take care of you. I can have it here tomorrow. How can Amazon compete against that? Well, Amazon is trying. I don't know if you've seen this, Robert. Amazon has some type of relationship with some of the retailers. I've seen this done with bookstores, where you order the book, and then the retailer might have the book, say, a Barnes & Noble, and then you order the book, pay for it and everything, and they'll say, okay, it's located at the Barnes & Noble on Main Street. Barnes & Noble will hold the book, you go pick it up. So Amazon is concerned about that, so they're trying to make an adjustment to their customer service model. And that's a little bit scary, but you can still compete against it. The thing you compete against is what does your customer support mechanism or infrastructure look like? So that's what people look for. People I'm not going to say you don't have to pamper people. You just have to take care of them. Okay? If you take care of your customer, you don't have to worry about your competition. I think Mark Cuban said that. That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, compete in the one area the area where Amazon can't, at least not yet,
Mm-hmm.
at least until they figure out the artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they do, then there'll be some other open area where we can adapt and kind of play our own chess move against them.
Absolutely. And think about this. I don't know if you've ever been into the Apple store, or you've been into the Microsoft store or Microsoft store. Have you seen those establishments in your area?
I've been in an Apple store maybe 4 or 5 times, but never a Microsoft store.
We have them here. I've been in both of them, and I'm going to tell you there's a difference. What's the difference? The Apple store is cool. You see cool little products. You remember that store, the Sharper Image in the mall? That used to have those neat gadgets.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Apple is. Apple is the cool store where all the kids want to hang out. But you go into the Microsoft store, it's just a different ambiance there. It's like, well, they got the Surface, well, they got the laptop, but it's just not the same ambiance, And you see more people in the Apple store than you do the Microsoft store, and the ambience is just different. It's not the same. Microsoft products, I guess maybe they're still working on it. They just don't move people to go to their store. It's like, yeah, everybody has laptops. You can go to Circuit City, go to what's the other retailer, Best Buy. But okay, you got laptops. You have the cool stuff. And Microsoft, they're not there yet with it. They just not there yet. And like I said, this is a total difference between the two. I was actually going to get staff together and research both of the retailers and do a article about it. But I'll put that one later. But it's just a different kind of feel to both of the stores. It's just totally different. Microsoft products don't seem cool to the consumers. You know what I mean? They just don't. There's something they're missing that they're not there yet. They just don't have. It's just not the same as when you go into the Apple store. Those are the kind of things that people look at. Are you the guy with the cool store? Are you the guy that has the products that people like and want to play with them? And Apple was very strategic in doing that. The Apple Store is a really, really master stroke in a retail environment added to their platform.
So, would you say that that with the companies that you work with, like the
hmm
online and offline ones, would you say
hmm
that the like the number one mistake, if there was a number one mistake, is it that people don't have a cool store, or is it something even bigger? That is there like a real low hanging fruit that all these entrepreneurs and stores should be pursuing?
Well, Apple had to. It took years for Apple to build up their brand and come up with the cool store. However, what you could do in terms of what you're selling to the public is, and it goes back to this, Robert. What's your customer service mechanism? Do you want you what? How are you perceived to the customer? You heard of the 5 P's of marketing, right? Well, you have a fifth P called presence. How you look to the customer. Okay. So what does your presence look like to that customer? Does that customer say, "Hey, this guy has this guy has that. He has other ancillary products to help, help with the sale." So what you want to do is you want to always measure yourself to whoever your competitors are, and you either want to outperform them or you want to take characteristics like Sam Walton used to do. He would shop his retailers or his competitors, and he would borrow ideas that work for them, and he would incorporate those into his Walmart store. You can do the same thing. You just have to find out what works and see if you can incorporate it into your store or your business and try to maximize it. You should always benchmark other retailers that are either a direct competitor to you or some that are not a competitor of yours. Ideas all over the place. You just have to manage those ideas. Some work, some don't. So you want to make sure that you take ideas from other stores or other people and incorporate them into yours, and that definitely will build up your customer support mechanism. That's the goal, is to build up your customer support infrastructure mechanism.
That's interesting, and that seems like that's what Microsoft is trying to do with the Apple Store. But as you said, they're kind of falling short and maybe not copying just the right parts, which is kind of weird because, like, for example,
hmm
Microsoft has a whole gaming system and Apple doesn't. Talk about
hmm
having a cool store, put some more, video games in there.
hmm
So and that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense there because
hmm
instead of trying to reinvent everything from scratch, you just look at what seems to be working and
hmm
what's not, and kind of incorporate those ideas in and see where they go.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the things that happen between those two companies are based on their corporate philosophy and their corporate culture. Microsoft tends to be an adapter. What that means in terms of innovation, there's two types of innovations. You have adaptation and you have innovation or creation, excuse me. When you're an adapter, you take things that are already there and you just improve on them. Okay? Apple is more of an innovator or more of a creative company than you say Microsoft. Microsoft is an adapter, and you would say Apple is more of a creative or creator type of store or creative innovation. They're always doing radical things, like case in point, who invented the iPad? Who invented the iPod? Who invented the iPhone? Those are all innovations made by Apple. Now, let me give you a great example of this. Okay, you have the iPod, right? So
Right?
what did Microsoft do? Microsoft went and started what? Zune Tunes? Remember that device?
Yeah, I remember the Zune. Yeah.
Yeah, Zune Tunes. Zune Tunes just didn't catch on with people. Now that is a core difference between the two companies. Microsoft tends to be an adapter. Apple tends to be a creative, innovative type of company. Apple tends to create things. Microsoft tends to take things and try to improve on them. Sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when you create something, it just doesn't work. Remember Newton? Sometimes you can be too ahead of the market. So, not one strategy works all the time. It depends on the situation. So you want to look at Apple, you want to look at Microsoft and go, okay, do I need to take a creative innovation strategy, or do I need to take an adapter strategy? Do I take something that has some weaknesses and improve it and put it up under the umbrella of my business? So you got to keep your ears to the ground and take a strategy that may work in different contexts and the way you need to work in terms of building your business or making your business more successful.
And all that makes a lot of sense. That yeah, sometimes you're in adapter mode, and sometimes that you're in creator mode. So it sounds like today we covered like a lot of little things and a lot of ways that a lot of ways of thinking about stuff, and for businesses to problem solve their way out of wherever they're stuck and things like that. And I understand that you have a book and a website where someone can kind of get all this stuff in one place and take the book and use it for their business and turn it around or make it better and adjust to the times. Is that right? Do you have this book for people?
Oh yes, I have a book out called Risk Factors in Business Model: The Five Forces of Entrepreneurial Risk. And my book, I looked at business failure and I looked at some of the things that cause business failure. And my book is one of the few on the market that's strategically focused on risk and what causes businesses to fail. And I did research on over 500 small businesses and ventures, and I conducted statistical or empirical research on it. And I think that my book will be helpful to your listeners because you don't want to make the mistakes that people do when they start a business. Like case in point, start a commodity type of business, a business that can't compete in the marketplace because the level of competition is so high, your business would not make a dent in the marketplace. So those are some of the things I talk about in my book. And I'm also working on a new book called How to Get Away with Murder in Marketing, but I'll save that for the next time we get on the show or do another interview. I love to come back.
Oh man, I'm excited for that one. So that's the future book, and the current book is Risk Factors and Business Models. And where can people pick up a copy of that?
Sure, you can pick up my book on Amazon.com. It's funny, right? Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, and that pretty much established online retailers. You can probably find it there. I do have a clip of my book on my website, www.mdicorpventures.com. And I also have some things that I published on my ResearchGate page, and I have a lot of people that you can download some of my articles and presentations for free. If you go to type in my name, DeAnthony Miles, and go to ResearchGate, and I have some neat things up there. I've actually done research on Hispanic-owned businesses, female-owned businesses. I did a national marketing study on businesses that were doing some work with the SBA. And like I said, I have some presentation and workshops that I've done. All that's free for your listeners if they're interested, my treat.
Awesome. And they can get all that free stuff at danthonymiles.com. Is that the place for those?
I don't know. I've had my website redone. If they want to get the free stuff, they can go to ResearchGate. Just type in my name, DeAnthony Miles, at ResearchGate. If you Google my name and see ResearchGate, that's where you want to go, ResearchGate.com. And I have about 40 items on there, whatever you're interested in. I actually got some research I did with another professor on workplace bullying, that type of stuff. So I got some neat stuff, and it's all free. All free.
Awesome. I mean, free is good, and what's also good is as you're talking about these different projects, I'm hearing again the duality. You have things empirically done and peer reviewed and stuff like that, but it's also on these practical subjects. So MDI.
Oh, absolutely.
So MDI Core Ventures and danthonymiles.com, and then Google search DeAnthony Miles and find the entry with you and your ResearchGate content. And so before we go, Dr. D, what does this D stand for in DeAnthony Miles?
Oh, it's my first name, Derek. Only my mother and my ex-wife call me by my first name.
Okay. So you were saying, I'm a big time, business owner and professor. I'm not going to be Derek, right? Got to be Anthony. Got to have a strong name, right?
Well, if you notice something, Robert, most CEOs have the initials in their middle name and their last name, like H.R. Ross Perot. So I did that because I want to reinvent my identity in the business world. So I use my first initial, my middle name, and my last name.
Nice. And then and that way it's your initials spelled damn anyway. So it's
yeah.
But when you're excited, but when you're passionate, you can say, man, I'll build you a great damn business, right?
Yeah, there you go. I got to
Cool.
use that as some of the marketing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you work with what you have, right? So cool. So lots of great stuff today, Dr. D. And once again, danthonymiles.com, MDIcorpventures.com. And I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate you hopping on and sharing all these knowledge bombs with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. I really appreciate it. I love sharing my knowledge with your listeners, and I think they'll pick some things from me, and I think I can help them out a lot. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
This is Robert Plank, and you made it through another episode of The Robert Plank Show. Do you want to be a guest on the show? Do you know someone who could be a fantastic guest? Do you have an idea for a topic? Whatever it is, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is robert@robertplank.com, as in walk the plank, ROBRT at ROBRTPLANK.com, and that's the way to reach me. So I hope to hear from you very, very soon as a loyal and valuable listener to this podcast. We couldn't do it without you. So